It was Christmas Eve last year. I was 23, back home after finishing school. My parents had gone to my aunt's house in Chicago for our usual family get-together. I was supposed to go too, but I'd just finished a long shift at the hospital earlier that day. I told them I was too tired and would just stay home. They said they'd be back a little after midnight. I was fine with that. I actually looked forward to having the house to myself. We live in a quiet neighborhood in Elmwood, just outside of the city. It's not far from the woods and some back roads, but it always felt safe. Never had any problems. It was cold, quiet, and everything outside had a fresh layer of snow. Around 10, I microwaved some leftovers, then made hot chocolate and turned on a movie. The lights on the tree were on. It felt peaceful. That didn't last. Around 11:45, there was a loud bang at the front door. I jumped. It wasn't just a knock. It was a hit. Like someone slamming their fist against it hard. I froze, waited. Another bang, then another. Fast, hard, steady. I got up and stepped quietly toward the stairs. My room was upstairs and I could look out from the small hallway window that overlooked the porch. I didn't turn on any lights. When I reached the window, I lifted the edge of the curtain just slightly and looked down. There were 3 people at the door. They were tall, all of them wearing dark coats, dark hats. I couldn't see any faces, just shapes. One stood at the door, pounding with both fists. The other 2 were just standing still behind him. They didn't say anything, just stood there. The pounding continued. I backed away from the window. I called my mom. She picked up right away. I told her what was happening. She was quiet for a second, then said, "Call the police. Right now. We're leaving now, but it'll take us at least 40 minutes." I hung up and just stood there for a second. My hands were shaking. Then the banging stopped. I waited. I listened. Then I heard it again, not at the front door this time. They had moved around to the back. I went to the other side of the house and peeked through another window. I couldn't see them clearly, but I heard movement, snow crunching, door handles jiggling. They were trying every back door we had. One of them slammed something against the back glass door. It echoed through the whole house. That's when I grabbed my phone and called 911. I gave them my name, my address, told them what was happening. The operator told me to stay hidden and stay on the line. Officers were on their way. Then things got quiet. No sounds for almost 2 minutes. I didn't know if they had left. I didn't want to check. Then it started again. But this time, the banging was at one of the basement windows, a small, narrow one near the back of the house. That window didn't have much reinforcement, just glass and an old frame. If they really wanted to, they could probably break it. I stayed low, holding my breath. Then I saw headlights through the living room window. A car pulled into the driveway. The banging stopped immediately. I crawled to the back again and peeked out just as I heard footsteps. I saw all 3 of them running, fast, across the backyard. They moved fast, like they knew exactly where to go. They ran through the snow, past the old garden, and towards the trees. Within seconds, they were gone. By the time I got to the front door, the police were already walking up the porch. I opened it and told them everything, pointing toward the woods. They searched the area, looked for tracks. There were some, but it was hard to follow in the dark. The officers came back inside and walked through the house with me. Nothing broken. Nothing taken, but the back door, the one with the glass, had fresh marks on the handle and the door frame. They'd been trying to force it open. I told the officers I never heard a word from them. No talking, no yelling, just banging. They nodded, took my report, and said they'd patrol the area a bit longer. My parents arrived 10 minutes later. We stayed up for a long time after that, checking windows, making sure everything was locked. They never came back. It's been a year since then. We still don't know who they were. The police never found anyone. No neighbors reported anything. Nothing was stolen. Nothing damaged. Just marks on the door and the sound of fists against the walls of our house. And silence. The part that still gets me, even now, is that they never tried to talk. never shouted or made demands. They just tried to get in, and I don't know what they wanted, or why they picked our house, or if they'll try again. We live in a farmhouse just outside of Scranton. My wife Anna and I moved here about 5 years ago. It's quiet out here. Neighbors aren't close. Our backyard stretches into a big field, then ends at a tree line that turns into woods. We, like the space, never had any trouble until last December. It was the weekend before New Year's. Cold, dry, a light layer of frost on the grass. We were hosting a small family lunch, just 10 people. My cousin Eric was the first to arrive. He pulled in around 12:30. I was out front when he stepped out of the car, holding a tin of cookies and a 6-pack of cider. First thing he said was, "Hey, do you know there's someone standing out in your field?" I laughed a little. "What are you talking about?" He nodded toward the backyard. "I saw a guy out past the garden, near the trees, just standing there. I stepped onto the porch and looked, but I didn't see anyone. The field was empty. I figured maybe it was a neighbor walking or something." Eric shrugged it off. We went inside and forgot about it. By 1 gas, the house was busy. People eating, laughing, talking over each other like usual. Kids running around. We had the fireplace going. Anna had music on in the background. It was one of those good, noisy, warm family afternoons. But around 2:30, I walked through the hallway toward the back windows. I wasn't even thinking about what Eric said. I just happened to look out, and I saw him. There was a man, out in the field, standing still at the edge of the trees. He wasn't moving, not waving, just standing there like he was waiting for something. I couldn't make out his face, but he was tall, wearing something, dark. His arms were at his sides. I called for Eric. He came fast, looked where I pointed. He said, "That's him." I didn't think. I went for the door. Eric followed. By the time we stepped outside, the man had already turned and disappeared into the woods. We ran out a bit, but there was no sign of him. We found footprints, though. Clear ones pressed into the frozen grass. They came from the trees, stopped halfway into the field, then turned back again. Eric shouted into the woods, "Hey, what the hell are you doing out here?" Nothing. We waited. Still, nothing. So we walked back inside. The rest of the afternoon, I kept looking through the windows. I didn't say anything to Anna or the others. I didn't want to make a scene, especially with the kids there. By 7, everyone was gone. It got dark fast. We locked up, checked the windows, turned off the porch lights. I checked the backyard one last time before we went to bed. It looked empty. Still, I didn't sleep well. The next morning, I got up before Anna. It was still early. I made coffee and stepped out to the back porch. It was quiet, cold. The field was white with frost again, and then I saw them. Footprints. A new set. Coming straight from the woods. They went across the yard in a straight line. One path, not rushed, not scattered. They went all the way up to our kitchen window. I stood there for a long time. Then I followed them. They led to the window. The frost was thin, but I could see where the person had stood, right in front of the glass, just a few inches from where we had eaten dinner last night. Then the footprints turned. They walked toward the garage, stopped at the side door, then turned again, and went straight back to the woods. I checked the door. It was still locked. No signs of damage. No signs of anyone trying to force anything open. But he had come right up to the house. I ran inside, checked the security cam over the garage. Dead. No power. I hadn't noticed it was offline. Anna came downstairs while I was still staring at the footage log. She asked what I was doing. I told her everything. We filed a report. The sheriff drove out, looked around, didn't find much. Said it might have been a hunter or a hiker that got turned around, but hunters don't walk up to windows at night and stand still. That was a person. Watching, waiting, coming right up to our house. I didn't sleep the next night. I started keeping the floodlights on. Every morning I'd get up and check the yard, then check the trees. I stopped walking out there. I just stood by the back window and looked. For the next few days, nothing happened. But sometimes, early in the morning, before the sun fully came up, I thought I saw something in the fog. A shape. Just past the tree line. Still. Watching, I'd blink, and it'd be gone. I kept telling myself it was the cold, my nerves, nothing more. But I don't believe that. We've lived here for 5 years. And in those 5 years, no one has ever just stood in our field like that. No one has ever come up to our windows, not until that day. I was 9 years old when this happened. We were living in Blue Hill, Maine, in a small single-story house at the edge of town. The backyard ended in woods. Our street was quiet, mostly older people and families who kept to themselves. It was Christmas Eve. We had just come home from dinner at our neighbor's place. I remember being full and tired. I went to bed around 9:30, and I think I fell asleep pretty fast. I don't know what time it was exactly when I woke up, but I checked the clock next to my bed and it said 1:45 a.m. I didn't wake up scared or anything. I just kind of opened my eyes like something had nudged me, but not physically. The room was dark except for a faint glow from the hallway light. We always left that on at night. I stared at the ceiling for a few seconds, trying to figure out if I had heard something. Then I heard it again. A soft creaking sound, like someone stepping on the wood floor just outside my room. My door was cracked open about 4 inches. I usually left it that way so I could hear my parents if I needed something during the night. At first, I didn't move. I just listened. I told myself it was probably Dad going to the bathroom. But something felt off. I sat up, slowly, and looked toward the door. I leaned a little to see through the opening. There was someone standing in the hallway, not moving, just standing there facing my door. At first I thought it was Ethan, my older brother. But then I remembered. He slept downstairs. His room was on the other side of the house. This person was too tall. Taller than my dad even. The hallway was dim, but the light behind them made their outline clear. No details, just the shape. I couldn't see a face or clothes, just a tall figure. No sound, no movement. I don't know how long I stared. My heart was beating hard. I didn't even blink. I didn't want to blink. Then I whispered, "Dad?" The figure didn't move at first. Then it slowly stepped back, 1 foot behind the other, until it disappeared into the darker part of the hallway. I froze. I didn't scream. I couldn't. After maybe 5 seconds, I jumped out of bed and ran to my parents' room. I didn't look down the hall. I didn't look anywhere but at their door. I pushed it open fast and whispered, "Dad, Dad, there's someone in the hallway." My dad groaned and sat up. "What? What are you talking about?" "There's someone out there," I said. "I saw them. They were standing by my door." Got up, put on his glasses, and walked out into the hallway. He flipped the light on and looked around. He checked the bathroom, the front door, the kitchen. Nothing. He said, "There's nobody here, Lily." I shook my head. "I saw them." He went and checked Ethan's room downstairs. Ethan was in bed, asleep. He said he hadn't come upstairs at all. We checked all the doors and windows. None were broken. But the back door, the one that leads to the woods, was unlocked. My dad swore he had locked it earlier. My mom said she hadn't touched it. I know I didn't. That's when I got really scared. I hadn't even thought about someone getting in until then. I thought maybe it was a prank, or maybe I was dreaming. but the door being unlocked made it real. We called the police. They came and walked around the house with flashlights. They checked inside too. They didn't find anyone. No footprints, no damage, nothing missing. One of the officers asked me what I saw. I told him. Just a tall person, standing still. Didn't say anything, just watched me. He nodded like he had heard it before. That made me feel worse somehow. After they left, my dad double-checked every lock. He even put a chair against the back door. I slept in their room that night, on a sleeping bag on the floor. I didn't sleep much. For the next few weeks, I refused to sleep alone. I kept thinking about the shape of the person's head. It was tall, but it seemed wrong, like too narrow. I know that sounds weird. I can't explain it well. I just remember it didn't look like any of us. And it felt like they knew I was looking. My parents told me it was probably a dream, a nightmare that felt real. They even offered to take me to a doctor if I was too scared. But I wasn't dreaming. I was awake. I was sitting up. I was breathing hard. I felt the cold floor under my feet when I ran. I saw the shape. I saw it step back into the dark. A week later, my dad installed cameras. One in the hallway, one pointing at the back door. Nothing ever showed up. No weird footage, no strangers, but I still don't feel right about that night. I've never told anyone this part, but about a month later, I found something strange. I was helping my mom clean out the coat closet near the front door. At the bottom, behind some old shoes, there was a button, just a black button. Large, like the kind on a winter coat. None of our jackets had buttons like that. I asked my mom if it was hers. She said no. We didn't keep guest coats in there, either. I didn't think much of it at the time. But later I remembered that the figure didn't make noise when it stepped back. The floor always creaked when we walked on it barefoot, so whoever it was, they were probably wearing shoes, heavy shoes, maybe a coat, maybe that button came from it. I still have it. I don't know why. Nothing like that ever happened again. The cameras stayed up. The doors were always locked, double-checked. Now I'm older. We moved to another town a few years later. Different house, different life. But I still think about that night. I still wake up sometimes at 1:45 and check the hallway, without meaning to. Every time I do, I remember the shape standing there, watching.